Today's video is going to be slightly more serious. If you've seen the description already, you know that this video is kind of my account of how I grew up and alternate ways that I dealt with kind of like mental health things, stress, anxiety, depression, without the use of substance or alcohol. I do want to give 3 disclaimers before we start. First disclaimer is this is not medical advice. If you and your medical provider decided that you require the assistance of medicine, then that should take precedence to what this video is about to talk about. This video is merely giving an alternate route to people who can take an alternate route or just want to hear about possible alternate routes. Because I know sometimes if you don't hear about it, if you don't know it's possible, you'll think it's not. Or if you've never thought about it and you just need the idea brought up, this video could be for that too. The whole reason why I'm filming this video is because people in my personal life have told me it could be helpful if I posted this because you're providing an option out there for people who might not have considered it. That's the first disclaimer. My second disclaimer is I am passing no judgment on anyone who uses these things, like who either partake in substances or partake in drinking. Everyone deals with their life in their own way. I am not a perfect human. As far as I know, this is the only lifetime I am cognizant of myself living in, at least for right now. So I don't think there's a right answer for every person out there. And I'm also not every other person out there. Everyone has their own situation. Everyone has things that led them to where they currently are. I just want to make sure everyone knows that I am not passing any judgment or criticism on anyone. That's the second disclaimer. The third disclaimer is that because I'll be giving a recount of how I got to where I currently am and all the alternate routes I've taken leading here, some in the beginning have their own repercussions and have their own vices. Luck also played a part in my journey as well. I was very blessed to have a few very important people around me that kind of helped in their own ways. So I do want to put that out there as well. So first, not medical advice. Second, I'm not passing judgment. I am an imperfect human myself. I'm merely giving this as an option to put out there for whoever might think this is useful. And lastly is the routes I'm still learning too. So a lot of the routes I took in the beginning have their own repercussions and were not fully healthy either. And I'm also still unlearning certain habits that I built back then. So with all that said, I started dealing with a lot of, or being cognizantly aware that I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues in my mid to late teens and then after that. And in the beginning, food has always been a comfort for me. Cooking and baking were also huge comforts to me. Escaping through reading, watching dramas were also things that I partook in. To kind of help deal with my stress and my anxiety and my depression. Now, comfort eating is needs to be dealt with delicately. I am lucky that I don't have, I don't know if my relationship with food now is the healthiest or even back then was healthy, but at a certain point, I heavily relied on food for comfort, and I would eat whatever brought me comfort. So at a certain point in my life, that looked like hot pot for like 5 days of the week. And every once in a while, that's hot pot is great, right? And especially if you make the soup base yourself. But if you eat hot pot out, or if you use the soup bases that are like pre-made and sold packaged, it's not the healthiest option. There's a lot of sodium in it, and you could gain quite a bit of weight from it, and not all of it is healthy weight. So that was one way I kind of helped cope with the stress. I also have a very heavy sweet tooth when I'm not in a good mental place. And these are common things, right? Like seeking comfort in food, and then also relying on sweets for like that dopamine hit. They, of course, have had their negative impact on me. I gained quite a lot of unhealthy weight, and that's not like muscle mass that I've gained. That's not like weight that I put on in a healthy manner. It's by me not taking care of myself properly and eating everything I wanted to eat, even if sometimes those things weren't exactly the healthiest. I also reached for soda a lot when I was stressed. So a huge indicator for me is if I start reaching for Coca-Cola when I'm stressed, specifically Coca-Cola. And this is obviously not sponsored by them, but it probably won't be sponsored after I finish making this video. Yeah, I reach for Coca-Cola a lot when I was stressed. I don't know if it was the sugar, the caffeine, the carbonation, or just the combination of those three helped kind of like, again, the dopamine hit and like help stress relief. By drinking something carbonated, it kind of almost helps release some of the stress that I had. So that was another thing that I kind of partook in. Partook. And when I was like in my teens, that's when K-pop was in like their second and third wave of K-pop idols, like second generation, third generation, and I think, pretty sure that was the timeline. Anyway, so that was able to kind of take my attention in a good way. I use it as an escape. I use Korean dramas as an escape. I use Chinese dramas as an escape. Now, those vices are because I wasn't aware of, like, I wasn't very aware of what I was doing. I was using them as an escape instead of dealing with things that, you know, were going on in my life. I never took care of the root problem back then. But the vice from there, or the repercussion from there, is I only focused on escaping. I didn't really take care of the root problem. However, at that point, I didn't have the energy level, I didn't have the willpower, the brain power to even start considering those things at that point. I also didn't have the support system in place. And it was just so much easier to rely on just the K culture in general. And this next part I want to mention, I want it to be kind of, I hope it doesn't get taken the wrong way. But towards my mid-20s, I would say, would it be, hold on. So during like my early 20s, my late teens getting into early 20s, I had kind of like shifted out of the K-pop genre, because at that point, and this is no criticism to the groups back then, I just kind of lost my interest, because to me everything kind of started blending together. and felt very packaged. I grew up with groups like HOT, Shinhwa, DBSK, FT Island, and groups like that. So a lot of them were like first generation of their company. So you saw a lot of their more unpolished sides in the beginning. You saw their genuine characters, and not everyone perfected Seoul accent yet. So you heard a little bit of like the different dialects and everything, and it just felt more genuine, and like they felt down to earth, and you saw their struggles, and you saw their story of becoming more popular and more successful, and it was inspirational, it was motivational, and it was also kind of healing as well, aspirational, I guess. So I really like that generation of groups. And then later on, groups started becoming more and more packaged, and I kind of felt like I was getting too old for K-pop, like starting to get into my early 20s. So I kind of left it. I still listen to it a bit, but not much. Like, I had the groups I listened to and the people I listened to, but I didn't listen to the rest of like the new idols so much back then. I focused a lot on Korean dramas and Korean reality shows instead. Like Running Man was a huge one for me, and then Tasty Guys or Tasty Road was a big one for me as well back then. And then suddenly one day I heard Dope, I think, playing on a show, and I saw BTS performing, and I was just like, something about them reminded me of the idols previously. They were from a small company. You could tell how much dedication they were putting into their dances. They weren't lazy at all. I'm not saying anyone else was. I'm just saying that, especially with Dope, the choreography was so sharp and so in sync that I was just like, okay, for one last time I will hop down the rabbit hole. There was something different about them that just drew me in, and I made a conscious decision. I was like, for one last time I would jump down the rabbit hole. I had learned how to research K-pop idols almost down to like, to learn about the group and their like background almost down to a science at that point. I knew exactly how to look for different informations. I don't know anymore. But back then I did. So I kind of, I was watch everything from some of their earliest vlogs on YouTube to their reality show, American Hustle Life, I think. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. And then I watched that, and I kind of fell headfirst, and I am so glad I did. And I promise this is not like a BTS fan video. It's just I want to explain kind of like how the background first. Now, BTS's music to me was so important on me becoming a person. First of all, they introduced the concept of self-love and self-actualization and hard work, dedication, passion for living and life, and just camaraderie, and just so many other elements to me that I just hadn't experienced prior. And I never really thought about, because I grew up in a very traditional Chinese household where you did what your parents told you to do. You didn't ask questions and you behaved. You didn't think for yourself either. So with their music, starting from the very beginning of like their debut songs, and it's like No More Dream, NO, like all of those things talking about society and like, you know, predetermined concepts of success and chasing these things that we might not even want ourselves actually. It's just a status symbol of success. Like things like that really spoke to me on a level that I didn't realize before. Like I couldn't put those things into words, and they gave me the words to express how I was feeling. And so they helped a lot through this whole process. They're the ones who inspired me to make that mental shift, to try to love myself, to try to discover who I am as a person, to speak out my voice. And I'm still on that journey today. Like I have not found my true voice yet, my true passion yet, but it is thanks to them that I got through some of the darkest and hardest times of my life. Now, for me, those were the darkest and the hardest. But that's my experience alone. Everyone has their own experiences. But I do hope that if you're going through a very difficult time, they have the reason why I was able to follow them and why they have like their fan base has such a wide range of cultures and ages is because their music is not purely about love. It's not about success. It is about the hard times. It is about the invisible struggles that are like that message is sorely missing, I think, in popular media. And I'm glad they're in popular media now because the messages that, you know, really help people could be spread wider. Now, I'm gonna try not to tear up any further, but they were a huge help in bringing me kind of out of that dark place. And I remember there's one evening of my adult life where there was a lot of intrusive thoughts that were very scary. And it was them that I grasped onto. It was their music I held onto. It was I watched In the Soup that night over and over again. And I even have the scribble on my journal still of that day where I thought I was going to lose control of my body and do like it almost felt like my consciousness was splitting and I was gonna lose. And I grasped on very tightly to their music and them, and finally was able to get out of that headspace. Now, I'm not saying that you just tough it out. You know, if you can seek help, seek professional help. It just so happened that in that night I was unable to. And I cannot be more grateful to them that they exist and I was born in the same timeline as they are. But enough about them. This video's not a fan letter to them. But they did play a huge crucial part. So yeah, so music helped a lot, and music was probably the healthiest thing out of all the routes that I partook in, that helped me out of that. I did have a few really good friends at this point who tried to bring me along to things to help me feel included, help me feel less alone. I have one person who I really want to thank. Well, two people really. Multiple people, actually. But like one person specifically played a very important part in my early 20s. And I don't know if they're watching this. I have a feeling that they won't be watching this. But I had a crush on them for 10 years. And we met in high school. We never turned out to be anything other than friends. But he treated me like a friend should. He never crossed the line, even though I'm pretty sure he was aware that I liked him. he never crossed a line that he should not cross if he didn't feel the same way, which means we never did anything that was outside of the friendship zone. But he was a wonderful friend. He listened to me when I had problems, and when I was running into challenges, he did what he could realistically to help me out. He listened, he understood. And I cannot be more grateful for this person having been in my life, even though we didn't end up in a relationship. I'm very grateful because he showed me what a true friend is, and he also showed me that how well I deserve to be treated as a person. So that was a huge, he played a very big part in my life, and I'm very grateful to him. Thankfully, we have thus moved much past that. That was about like almost 10 years ago now. Like we don't talk anymore, but like I'm very grateful that he showed up in that phase of my life. And another person I'm very grateful for, I have many, you know, like, but another person I got to know is the friend I'm currently living with. We actually met through V Live, which is one of BTS's earlier, it was like the precursor to Weverse, and they had like a chat room for fans back then, and they said that BTS would pop up in the chat room every once in a while. But like the armies who signed up in the beginning, we just loved chatting amongst ourselves, like even when they weren't there. And I had met this friend through that. Again, disclaimer, not everyone you meet on the internet is safe, and not all of it pans out this way. But I got very lucky to meet this friend, and we started writing a story together. It allowed me to exercise my creativity and express myself in a world where I would not be judged. So that also helped as well. What also helped me was the fact of I'm not saying I never drink alcohol. That's not true. I have drank alcohol before, and I can handle quite a bit of alcohol. It's just I realized alcohol did nothing for me. Like I didn't feel anything after drinking alcohol. Not saying that I can't get tipsy, I can, but I just didn't enjoy that feeling. And like I didn't enjoy the feeling I get after consuming alcohol. That was it. Like I had enough awareness about my own tastes and how I reacted to things where I'm just like, I drank that alcohol and it didn't really do much for me. So for me, it was easier for me to be like, I'm good, you know? I'm also very much a homebody, and I think that helped a lot too, because I didn't feel tempted to go out and party. For me, I much rather have had like stayed home to watch a drama that I was binging, or watch like BTS's new performances and whatnot. There was a bunch of things. I don't remember exactly everything I did. I also love cooking and baking, so that helps me a lot as well in handling my stress. And there was a part of me that always felt like I had to keep up a certain image in public, even though I was not a public figure by any stretch of that. So yeah. Again, I would like to remind people I am an imperfect human being, and I've tried, like, this is just like a very condensed version of what I've tried, and like I've definitely, like, not all of these are without its own cons, I guess. Like, I've definitely put on an unhealthy amount of weight where my body was starting to suffer for it. I threw my gut health into complete imbalance, and and I got eczema around the same general timeline, so I don't know if that might have impacted the eczema or whatnot. I also had a so yeah, lots of issues back then. Now I want to go from that to give alternate routes that I think are healthier now, that I feel like I've done a lot of healing in the last year or so and last 2 years or so, and I want to share things that I do now that I believe are a lot healthier. If you followed my whole YouTube journey thus far, you'll know that I started crocheting last year. I started knitting last year. This year I have a sewing machine. I made my first dress with the help of my mom. So hobbies like those definitely have helped me a lot. I've also gotten into watching a lot of like self-development, like motivational, I don't know how to describe them, but like people who are helping other people try to live a healthier life on YouTube kind of situation, like mentors. Life by Lucy is someone I currently watch a lot. Back in the day, another YouTube channel that helped me a lot was Samantha Joe, and just watching her deal with her challenges and fighting to get better almost kind of brought me along in that process and convinced me that I should be trying for myself too. And then who else? I forgot her handle, but her name is Jill's, and she talks about helping women gain empowerment and live a better life as well. So a lot. I've been watching a lot of those YouTube videos. I've also been watching Nonstop Dan for like traveling and kind of more aspirational things about what I want to do, like travel things. Sophia Nygaard is someone else I watch a lot because I want to, the way that she lives life and the journeys that she posts online and just approaching life in kind of like a fun way, even though I'm sure she has her own stresses, is kind of like, was very much inspirational for me as well. And it, like, after watching so much, I started wanting to do fun things and explore by myself as well. So that was also very helpful. So what else? I've also gotten into eating healthier and studying things that could help change my mental health on a biological level. And I'm very grateful to my family doctor for that, because she was the one, and it should have been obvious, but like it wasn't to me. She's the one who told me that my gut health is directly linked to my mental health. So if my gut health is thrown off, mental health suffers. So another reason why maybe me eating all of those things were not the best for me. It helped in the short term, not the long term. But ever since then, I started taking care of what I ate. I know I posted about a year or two ago, I lost 30 pounds in 6 months. That was after that too. Evaluating life and deciding where I want to take my life next, and traveling and pushing myself out of my comfort zone into a safe zone. That was a stretch, but still safe, which is moving to Pennsylvania with one of my closest friends. That was also something I did that helped remove me from the environment that was not really benefiting me. I read a lot now, both self-help books and fun books, but now I'm able to remind myself that I have my own life to live, and as fun as the adventures of these people in the books are, they will remain my escape if I don't start living my life. And I won't have to escape my life if I start living it. So I don't want to just read about other people's adventures. I want to be able to have my own. I want to be able to have a love and a relationship like some of the female leads or like these stories have. I want to be able to have a family and things like that. And in order, and like now I'm cognizant and like aware of it in my head constantly that I can't let myself do X, Y, and Z too much, or else it will hinder me from real life, from living my life. And someone commented a pretty kind of questionable comment back in the day, and they said, like, do you think you're the main character or something? And I was just like, and I thought about it, I was like, I kind of am of my own story. And if I don't treat myself as the main character of my own story, I won't be able to live like the main character. I will forever be pushed along the story and not be the one living the story. So I'm more aware of that now. Another hobby that's become really healthy and helpful for me is journaling. I can't tell you how much I think it's helped me mentally. It's just, and I don't have a structure for what I write down. Some days I write down like things that I think that I have to do and kind of just organize my thoughts. Other days I write just a train of thought. Whatever's popped up in my head, I write it down. And then sometimes when I'm like angry or like overly emotional, I write that down too. And it helps me process those emotions. I've started listening to meditations and a few like this ancient Hawaiian prayer, and I feel like I butcher the name if I say it wrong. I really don't want to do that. It's the I'm sorry, please forgive me, I thank you, I love you 108 times prayer. I'm not sure, you could look that up. It's and I just kind of like, I repeat it once, I follow the video and repeat it 100 times, 108 times once, and then I kind of just listen in the background and kind of meditate to it. And I don't know if I fall asleep or go into a trance mode, but tarot comes over when I'm in that mode, and I feel great after it. Jill's and Life by Lucy from Life by Lucy, both kind of convinced me to go into, by watching their videos, it convinced me to try scripting, which is also really cool. And that's kind of like almost writing my own story, and I've always kind of delved into the creative side. So I guess with all those things, those are the hobbies that I've come to develop now that I feel are a lot healthier and sustainable for me than my previous ways of dealing with stress, anxiety, and depression. I do not denounce them by any means, because having them allowed me to be here today in order to have my healthier habits. If that version of me didn't go through all of those things and found a way to survive this entire time, I wouldn't be able to have the healthy habits I do now. I wouldn't have the energy I have now to do so many things. I take pleasure and happiness and gratefulness for being able to take care of my living space, for being able to have a nice space to live, and to have a tarot now, you know? Like, if it wasn't for the past version of me, I wouldn't be able to have the present version of me. And without the tactics that I had then, I wouldn't be able to survive until now. But I will say that the constant driving force, I think, to me getting healthier was, honestly, a lot of it was BTS's music. And also part of it was writing the story with my best friend and writing one of my favorite characters that I've ever, and I've written like stories by myself. I don't think I'll ever publish them. They're more for my personal enjoyment to write, but like there was 2 characters that I've written that were just so strong and aspirational, and I wanted to be them. I didn't want to live their life through that story and just leave it at that. I wanted to bring them to life because I knew I had the potential that they had as well inside me. So that drove me to start my own business. That drove me to start YouTube, to start TikTok, things I wanted to do but were scared to do this whole time, and I'm still kind of scared to do. And I know this video isn't like 100% structured, and I know that I kind of rambled quite a bit. I just wanted to share that, like, no matter where you are right now, as long as you are looking to love yourself, and by loving yourself, I don't mean coddling and condoning things. I like loving myself means like, how would I love someone that I treated as precious and do that for myself? How do I make sure that I take great care of me? That's what, for me, loving myself meant so far. So I don't want you to beat yourself up over had you done things that you regretted, or, you know, maybe judging yourself on how you're coping with stress and anxiety right now. I used to blame myself. I used to, this is something I feel so apologetic, I guess, to myself for. I used to be upset at my body being so strong, because no matter how much stress I felt in my head, and no matter how much I felt like I was dealing with, my body never showed it. I was able to push through. I was able to go ahead. And like, how many times did I wish that maybe if my body showed the hard times we were going through, that someone would finally take it seriously, that my parents would take it seriously, that people around me would notice how difficult of a time I was having. I regret having those thoughts now, because my body is doing its best to make sure I could be as supported as possible. And I should be grateful that it never gave up on me. And I should be grateful for how strong it is. So now I am. I'm grateful for how strong my body is. I'm doing my best to love myself and my body as it is, but also making sure that I could take care of it and get it to a healthier state so that it can have an easier time supporting me. So if you're in that state and you just wish, you know, someone, like, something would happen to you so that someone would notice yourself first. Don't push your body to that extent. Don't do that to yourself just in hopes that someone else will notice. Like, I needed to notice first how much I was struggling, and then I needed to put myself first. So I hope this helps even one person out there to realize that you don't have to punish your body so that other people could maybe notice you and treat you properly. The easiest way to get there is by treating yourself properly and being grateful for your body for supporting you. But I completely understand the other mentality as well. But yeah, so I did say today's video is going to be slightly heavier, and if you've made it this far, thank you. This is probably one of my longest videos, along with like the Seattle one, I promise. Like, I don't know if you like these longer videos. I don't even know if anyone's watching at this point. If you are, please leave me a comment so I know I'm not just like blabbing to the ether. But even if I am, it's fine. As long as someone found something helpful. And if you did, if you could let me know, that would be great. But yeah, I'm still kind of clumsy with these kind of videos, and I don't mean to criticize anyone, and I don't mean to make anyone feel ostracized or criticized. I just want to kind of give my experience and let you know that there's a brighter side, and you can get there, and you don't have to rely on substances to deal with stress and anxiety if you don't want to. There are other routes, but at the same time, I am not criticizing any choice you make. I don't know your life, so I can't pass judgment. And even if I knew your life, I'm not you, so I can't pass judgment. Only you could do that for yourself. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video here before it gets any longer.